The Vampire King CEO fakes a nap to test the single mom janitor, then freezes at her whisper. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's begin. Mia had never imagined that her life, as ordinary as it seemed, would intersect with someone so powerful, someone who had been hiding in plain sight for centuries. A single mother working 3 jobs just to make ends meet, Mia was used to scraping by, never dreaming that one encounter would change everything. It was late, far too late for anyone to be awake in the office tower she was cleaning. The corporate world had long since shut down, leaving behind an empty, cold space that felt oddly lonely. As she moved quietly between the desks, her mop gliding over the shiny floors, she couldn't help but notice the figure slouched in the CEO's chair. Adrian Black, the company's enigmatic leader, was sitting there, his head tilted back, eyes closed, looking like he had finally given in to exhaustion. Mia had seen him in passing before, sharp, commanding, with a presence that made everyone in the room fall silent. Yet here he was, looking vulnerable, something she never thought she would see. She paused, her mop held tightly in her hands, observing him for a moment. He looked tired, maybe even defeated, something foreign to the ruthless CEO she had heard so much about. Mia's heart softened for a second, a flicker of empathy rising within her. Without thinking, she walked over and draped her old, worn cardigan over his shoulders, hoping to give him some warmth. It was a simple act of kindness, one she would give to anyone in need, even if it was the powerful CEO who everyone feared. She didn't know why, but something about him seemed different tonight. Just as she was about to turn away and continue cleaning, the quiet office filled with a strange energy, like the air had shifted. Adrian's breathing, slow and steady just moments ago, seemed to pause. She froze, unsure of what was happening. Then, just as quickly, his deep voice broke the silence. No one deserves to be this tired, he whispered, so softly that she almost didn't hear it. Mia's breath caught in her throat. Those words, they sounded so familiar. As if he had just spoken the exact words she had heard years ago from someone she had loved and lost. Her grandmother, who used to comfort her in moments of exhaustion. Mia stood there, frozen, unsure of how to respond. She wanted to say something, but the words stuck in her throat. Adrian stirred, as if the simple act of her whisper had somehow awakened something within him. His eyes, which had been closed just moments ago, flickered open, revealing an unsettling shade of amber that seemed to glow in the dim light. Mia stepped back in shock, her heart pounding. She had heard rumors, of course, that Adrian Black wasn't just a ruthless CEO, but something far more ancient and dangerous. But she had never taken them seriously. What she didn't know was that in that single, quiet moment, she had unknowingly set off a chain of events that would lead her into a world she never believed existed. A world where the man she had just covered with a cardigan was not just a CEO, but a vampire king, one whose curse had lingered for centuries, waiting for someone just like her to break it. And now, with her simple act of kindness, she had unknowingly tied her fate to his in a way she couldn't possibly understand. As Mia stepped back, her heart pounded in her chest. She had no idea what had just happened. One moment, she had been cleaning the office, and the next, she had crossed an invisible line that now tied her to someone who was far more than just the cold, distant CEO she had always known. Adrian Black, with his amber eyes and otherworldly presence, stood up slowly from his chair, his movements smooth and deliberate. For a moment, Mia wondered if she had imagined the whole thing. Maybe she had been too tired, too exhausted from a long day of cleaning. But no, those eyes were real. The air around her seemed charged with something electric, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Who are you? Adrian's voice was low and measured, his gaze piercing through her. His words made her shiver, but she didn't look away. I'm just a janitor. A single mom trying to make ends meet, Mia replied, her voice trembling slightly. She didn't know why she felt the need to explain herself. I didn't mean to disturb you, she added quickly, afraid of making the situation worse. Adrian studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, Without warning, he stepped closer. His presence was overwhelming, and Mia instinctively took a step back, bumping into the desk. But Adrian's gaze softened, just for a moment, before he spoke again. You are not just a janitor, are you, Mia? His words were like a whisper, but they sent a chill down her spine. What do you mean? Mia asked, her confusion growing with each passing second. Adrian tilted his head slightly, as if he were contemplating something, his eyes never leaving hers. You touched my son. His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, a hidden intensity that Mia couldn't ignore. I didn't mean to do anything. You did something, Mia. You woke him. Adrian's words hit her like a ton of bricks. Her mind raced as she tried to process what he was saying. Woke him? What was he talking about? I don't understand, Mia whispered. Adrian took a deep breath, his gaze softening as he watched her. My son has been in a deep slumber for 50 years. No one, not even the most skilled healers, could awaken him. But when you touched him, something changed. His heart began to beat stronger. His breath became deeper. Mia's mind spun, and for a moment, she felt as though the ground had shifted beneath her feet. She couldn't grasp what Adrian was saying. 50 years? A sleeping prince? What was going on? But I didn't do anything special, Mia protested, her voice faltering. I just touched his wrist. It was an accident. Adrian shook his head slowly. It was no accident. You have a connection to him, a bond that goes beyond anything I've seen in centuries. I don't have any connection to him, Mia said, her voice cracking slightly. I'm just a janitor, just a woman trying to survive. No, Adrian said softly, his voice growing serious. You are more than that. You are the key to breaking the curse that has bound my son for so long. Mia's eyes widened in disbelief. What do you mean? She asked, her heart racing. Adrian stepped back, his gaze never leaving her face. You don't know it yet, Mia, but you are tied to this world in ways you can't understand. Your touch, your presence, it has awakened something in my son that was lost long ago. You have the power to save him. Mia shook her head, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of Adrian's words. I'm not. I can't be the one. I don't even know what's happening. Adrian reached out and gently touched her arm, his fingers warm against her cold skin. You will learn, Mia. You will learn the truth of who you are and the role you must play. There is much at stake, and I can't let you walk away. Mia looked up at him, searching his eyes for any hint of reassurance, but all she found was determination. She was caught in a web of mystery, of power, and of ancient secrets, and there was no way out. As she stood there, frozen in the face of everything she had just learned, Mia realized that her life would never be the same again. Adrian Black, the CEO, the Vampire King, had just revealed the first layer of a truth that would change everything she knew about herself, about him, and about the world she thought she understood. I am the Vampire King, Mia. Adrian's voice echoed through the quiet room, more solemn than ever. Mia could hardly breathe, still struggling to understand everything that had happened. She had always known Adrian was powerful, but a vampire king? A king of vampires? She never expected this. How could she? Adrian's amber eyes, which had once seemed so distant, now held something deeper, a sense of urgency, even fear, that Mia couldn't shake off. He stood before her, his figure imposing yet strangely vulnerable, as if the weight of his truth were too much to bear. She had always seen him as untouchable, a figure who roamed the corporate world with effortless power. But now, here he was, speaking of curses, ancient magic, and his son's mysterious slumber. What do you mean by the curse? Mia finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper, struggling to comprehend the enormity of what she had just learned. Adrian glanced down, as if deciding how much to reveal. 50 years ago, my son was cursed. He fell into a deep sleep that no one could wake him from. Not doctors, not magic. No one. But when you touched him, something changed. I felt it too. Mia swallowed hard. So, I'm supposed to help him wake up? She asked, her mind racing. Adrian's gaze softened for a moment. Yes, you are. But it's not that simple. What do you mean? Mia asked. What's stopping me from helping him? You said I did something, right? Adrian hesitated, his lips pressing together as though he were choosing his words carefully. It's not just your touch, Mia. It's who you are. You are tied to this curse in ways that even I don't fully understand. Mia felt a chill run down her spine. Tied to the curse? How? I'm just a regular woman. I don't have magic. Adrian shook his head. You're not just anything, Mia. You carry a bloodline that's been lost to time. Your grandmother, she knew more than you realize. Mia's head was spinning. She had heard her grandmother speak in riddles when she was younger, but never anything about curses or bloodlines. My grandmother? She asked, confusion thick in her voice. Adrian's expression grew more serious. Yes, your grandmother was no ordinary woman. She was a key player in an ancient pact, a pact that binds you to my family. You are the one who can break the curse. You are the one who can awaken my son. Mia's knees weakened, and she had to steady herself against the desk. I don't understand. How could I have anything to do with that? I'm just a single mom, a janitor. I barely make enough money to get by. I have nothing to do with magic or royalty. Adrian stepped closer to her, his presence overwhelming, as though his very existence filled the room. You have everything to do with it, Mia. You may not understand yet, but you will. I don't know if I can do this, Mia said softly, her voice shaking. You don't have a choice, Adrian replied, his tone softer now. The curse will not break on its own. We need you. Mia was silent for a moment, her thoughts racing. How could she be the one to help him? She didn't know anything about curses, vampires, or magic. She had her own struggles to deal with. But the weight of Adrian's gaze, the seriousness in his eyes, made her realize that something much bigger than herself was at play. She couldn't walk away from this. What do I need to do? She finally asked, her voice quiet but determined. Adrian's eyes flickered with something like hope, though it was fleeting. First, we need to figure out how your bloodline connects to this curse. Your grandmother knew the truth, but she hid it from you. We need to find her journal, the one with the answers. Her journal? Mia repeated, still trying to wrap her mind around the idea that her grandmother had known something so extraordinary. Adrian nodded. Yes, it's hidden somewhere in your home, and we need to find it. Once we do, we'll understand what you need to do to awaken my son and break the curse. Mia nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her new reality settling over her. She was tied to something ancient and powerful, and now, she was part of a story she never asked to be in. But one thing was certain, she couldn't back out now. Where do we start? Mia asked, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Adrian stepped back, a sharp look in his eyes. We start with finding your grandmother's journal, Mia. Once we have it, we'll figure out the rest. Mia took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. A beginning she wasn't sure she was ready for. But there was no turning back now. I cannot believe this is happening, Mia whispered to herself, standing at the front door of her apartment, staring at the two black cars parked outside. They were sleek, polished, and intimidating, looking far too out of place on the shabby street she lived on. Yet, here they were, waiting for her to step out. She turned back to glance at Adrian, who was standing behind her with that same unreadable expression. It was strange. She had never imagined her life would take such a turn. A simple act of kindness, covering a tired CEO with her cardigan, had led her to this moment. Her world had turned upside down, and now, it seemed like there was no going back. You don't have to do this, Mia said softly, not turning around. I can go alone. Adrian's voice was steady, calm, and surprisingly reassuring. No, Mia. This is something you can't face on your own. You have to know what you're up against. It's safer this way. Mia took a deep breath and stepped outside, her heart pounding in her chest. The cool night air brushed against her skin, but it did nothing to calm the tension that had settled inside her. What happens if we don't find the journal? She asked, the question hanging between them like a weight. Adrian's gaze softened, but there was still a glimmer of urgency in his amber eyes. If we don't find the journal, Mia, the curse won't break. The only way for my son to be free is for you to unlock the secrets it holds. Mia nodded, trying to push down the fear rising within her. She couldn't explain it, but something about Adrian's words felt like the truth, and yet it terrified her. She had no idea what she was getting into. All she knew was that her life would never be the same again. The cars followed them through the city, the streets flickering past in a blur of lights. It felt surreal, like she was in a dream that she couldn't wake up from. After what seemed like an eternity, the car finally pulled up to a large, imposing building on the outskirts of the city. The mansion loomed in the distance, its silhouette dark against the moonlit sky. Mia could hardly believe her eyes. She had never seen anything like it. It was the kind of place only seen in movies, gothic, ancient, and mysterious. As they stepped out of the car, Mia felt a chill crawl up her spine. "Welcome to my family's home," Adrian said quietly. His voice held an odd mix of reverence and sadness. Mia couldn't help but feel small in comparison to the grandeur of the mansion. "This place, it's incredible," she whispered. "It's been in my family for centuries," Adrian replied. "But its secrets are more than just old stones and crumbling walls. This place is where your grandmother's journal is hidden. It's the key to everything." They walked through the massive wooden doors, and Mia was immediately struck by the sense of history that filled the air. The walls were adorned with tapestries and portraits of people she didn't recognize, their eyes seeming to follow her as she moved through the hall. The coldness of the stone floors sent a shiver through her as they walked deeper into the mansion. "Where do we start?" Mia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Adrian paused, his gaze drifting over the room as if lost in thought. "The journal is in the library. It's the only place where the answers lie." He turned and led her down a long corridor, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The library was just as grand as the rest of the mansion, filled with shelves that seemed to stretch endlessly toward the high ceiling. Old books lined the walls, their spines worn with age. Adrian moved to the far corner of the room, where an intricately carved wooden chest sat. "This is where we'll find it," he said, kneeling down to open it. Mia felt a knot form in her stomach as he slowly lifted the lid. The chest creaked open, revealing a small, leather-bound book at the very bottom. Adrian gently picked it up and handed it to her. "This is it," he said. "Your grandmother's journal." Mia's fingers trembled as she took the book. It was heavier than she expected, the leather soft but worn. She opened the first page, her heart racing as she began to read the familiar handwriting that filled the pages. "What is this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Your grandmother was not just a linguist," Adrian explained, his voice low. "She was the last in a line of witches who held the key to breaking the curse. Her journal holds the knowledge that we need to free my son." Mia turned the pages, her eyes scanning the notes and symbols that seemed to blur together. Some parts were in a language she didn't understand. Others seemed to be written in a hurried, almost frantic hand. "This doesn't make sense," she said, her voice desperate. Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder. "It will, Mia, but we need to decipher it together." Mia nodded, though doubt lingered in the back of her mind. How could she, a simple janitor, be the one to unlock the secrets of an ancient curse? But as she stood there, holding the journal in her hands, she realized that this was the path she had been set on. There was no turning back now. The future of Adrian's son, and perhaps even her own fate, rested in her hands. "I'm not sure if I can do this," Mia whispered, her voice barely audible as she sat on the ancient chair in Adrian's private study. The leather-bound journal lay open in front of her, its cryptic symbols and hurriedly scrawled notes seeming to taunt her with their complexity. She had never imagined her life would take such a turn. Just days ago, she had been cleaning the offices of a company she barely understood, and now she was sitting in a mansion with a vampire king, trying to decipher an ancient curse. "You can do this, Mia," Adrian said from across the room, his gaze focused on her as he paced back and forth. "Your grandmother didn't write this journal for it to stay hidden forever. You are meant to read it." Mia's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages, her eyes scanning the strange symbols. It was all so overwhelming. How could she possibly unlock the secrets of an ancient curse? She was just a janitor, a single mother trying to survive in a world that never seemed to give her a break. "There has to be something I'm missing," she muttered, her frustration mounting. Adrian stopped pacing and turned toward her, his eyes filled with a mixture of understanding and resolve. "It's not about missing something, Mia. It's about realizing that you are more than just who you think you are. Your bloodline, your connection to this world, it's all part of the puzzle." Mia looked up at him, her mind still racing. "I don't feel like I'm part of anything," she admitted. "I'm just a regular woman. I have no magic, no special powers." Adrian's expression softened. "You may not realize it, but you have a strength within you that goes beyond what you know. Your grandmother was the last of a powerful lineage. She protected the secrets of this world, and now it's your turn to unlock them." Mia shook her head, her mind struggling to process everything. "But I don't know how to do this. I don't understand these symbols. I don't understand any of it. Adrian stepped closer, his presence both comforting and intimidating. You don't have to understand everything right away. This journal was written to guide you, not to overwhelm you. Start with what you do understand. Look at the symbols. Look at the words that seem to repeat. Trust your instincts. Mia sighed, glancing back down at the journal. She took a deep breath and focused on the first page, where a series of symbols appeared again and again. As her eyes traced the lines, something in her shifted. She didn't know why, but something about the symbols seemed familiar, as though they had been burned into her memory long ago. Slowly, almost without thinking, her fingers moved over the paper, tracing one of the symbols. To her surprise, the symbol began to glow faintly under her touch. Mia jerked her hand back, her heart racing. "What is this?" she gasped, staring at the page in shock. Adrian stepped forward, his eyes widening in recognition. "That symbol. It's the key," he said, his voice filled with awe. "It's the symbol that ties you to the curse." Mia's breath caught in her throat. "What does that mean?" Adrian didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the bookshelf and pulled down an old, worn book. He opened it to a specific page and showed it to her. The page contained a drawing of the very symbol she had just touched, along with a series of instructions written in a language Mia didn't recognize. "This is what you need to do," Adrian said, pointing to the instructions. "Your touch, combined with this symbol, will awaken the curse. It's the first step in breaking it." Mia's mind was spinning. "But how do I know if I'm doing it right?" she asked, her voice filled with doubt. Adrian's gaze softened. "Trust yourself, Mia. You were chosen for a reason. You have the power to change the fate of my son, and in turn, the fate of us all." Mia swallowed hard, her heart heavy with the weight of his words. She had never asked for any of this. She never imagined she would be the one to save a vampire prince or break an ancient curse. But as she looked at Adrian, she realized that there was no turning back. The journal, the symbols, the power within her, they were all part of something much bigger than she had ever imagined. She had a choice to make, and whatever happened next, it was up to her to see it through. "Okay," Mia said, her voice steady. "I'll do it. I'll try." Adrian smiled, his expression filled with pride. "I knew you would," he said softly. "Now we begin." Mia nodded, the weight of the task ahead settling on her shoulders. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't back out now. She had come this far, and no matter how daunting the journey ahead seemed, she was ready to face it. Together with Adrian, she would uncover the secrets of the curse, and perhaps, just maybe, free his son from the sleep that had held him captive for so long. "I cannot believe we're doing this," Mia muttered under her breath, glancing nervously at Adrian as he led her through the darkened corridors of the mansion. She still couldn't shake the unease that had settled in her chest since Adrian revealed the truth about her grandmother's journal and her connection to the curse. The mansion, grand as it was, felt like a prison in that moment, its cold stone walls enclosing her in a world she wasn't sure she was ready to face. Adrian had told her it was time to act, time to break the curse that had haunted his son for 50 years, but Mia was filled with doubt. She wasn't a hero. She wasn't someone special. She was just a woman who had been swept up in a story far beyond her control. "Don't worry, Mia," Adrian said, his voice calm, steady, and strangely comforting. "You have everything you need to succeed. You've already proven that." Mia gave him a skeptical look. "How? I've barely even read this journal. I'm not sure I'm doing this right." "You are," Adrian replied, his gaze softening. "You are the one who can do this. Trust me." They reached the end of the hall, and Adrian stopped in front of a large wooden door, intricately carved with symbols she didn't recognize. The door seemed ancient, its wood darkened with age, and it felt like it held the weight of centuries within it. Adrian pushed the door open, revealing a small chamber. In the center of the room was a stone pedestal, upon which lay a delicate, crystal vial, its contents glowing faintly in the dim light. The air in the room felt heavier, charged with a kind of magic that Mia couldn't explain. She hesitated, taking in the sight of the vial. "This is it," Adrian said quietly, stepping into the room. "The vial contains the essence of the curse. Once you've done what's in the journal, this is what will break it." Mia nodded, though she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on her. Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder. You've already touched the curse once, Mia. Now, you're going to do it again. You're the key. Mia took a deep breath, trying to calm the panic rising in her chest. She stepped forward, reaching for the journal that she had kept close to her side. The ancient pages still seemed foreign to her, the symbols dancing before her eyes as though they were mocking her. She scanned the page again, focusing on the instructions Adrian had highlighted earlier. It seemed simple enough. Trace the symbol, whisper the words, and let the power of the curse be absorbed into the vial. But something about it still didn't feel right. She wasn't a witch. She wasn't some magical being destined for greatness. She was just a janitor. Yet, here she was, in a room filled with centuries-old magic, holding the fate of a vampire prince in her hands. She swallowed, pushing aside her doubts. She had to try. Adrian stepped back, watching her intently. Remember, Mia, trust yourself. Your bloodline carries more power than you think. With a trembling hand, Mia traced the symbol in the air, following the instructions she had read. As her fingers passed through the air, a faint light appeared, shimmering like a faint mist. She gasped in shock as the symbol began to glow in front of her. Adrian's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing in concentration. You're doing it, he whispered, his voice almost inaudible. Mia's heart raced as she repeated the words from the journal, her voice barely above a whisper. The words felt foreign on her tongue, like something ancient that had been buried deep within her memory. As she spoke the final word, the room seemed to tremble. The vial on the pedestal shook, its glowing contents swirling within. Mia stepped back, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She couldn't believe what she had just done. What now? She asked, her voice shaky. Adrian moved closer, his eyes filled with a mixture of awe and pride. Now Wait, he said. The curse is breaking, Mia. You've done it. Mia looked at the vial, now glowing brightly, its contents swirling faster. It felt surreal, like she had just stepped into a storybook, one where she was both the hero and the bystander. She wasn't sure what to expect next, but she knew one thing for sure. Her life, and Adrian's son's life, would never be the same again. As she stood there, watching the vial pulse with energy, a strange calm washed over her. She had done it. She had broken the curse. Or at least, she had started the process. Adrian's hand found hers, and he gave her a small, proud smile. You're more than you realize, Mia. You've just unlocked the first step towards saving him. Mia didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. There was no going back now. I can't believe it, Mia whispered, standing at the edge of the stone courtyard, the weight of what she had just accomplished pressing down on her. The vial still glowed faintly in the distance, its magic swirling like a storm contained within glass. She had broken the curse, or at least, she had started the process. But the journey ahead felt even more uncertain. Adrian had told her it was just the beginning, that the curse could still be reversed, but how? She wasn't sure. You did well, Mia. Adrian's voice cut through her thoughts, steady and sure. She turned to face him, her heart still pounding in her chest. Adrian stood tall, his amber eyes intense as always, but there was something different about the way he looked at her now, a kind of reverence mixed with something she couldn't name. She had always thought of him as distant, cold even. But now, she was starting to understand that there was more to him than just the Vampire King. I didn't do it alone, she said quietly, her voice almost lost in the wind. You helped, Adrian replied, stepping closer to her, his gaze unwavering. But you are the key to all of this. Without you, none of this would be possible. Mia shifted uncomfortably. She hadn't asked for any of this. She hadn't asked to be part of a centuries-old curse, to be the one who could change the fate of a vampire prince. She had only wanted to live a simple life, to take care of her son and make ends meet. But now, standing in this strange world, she had become something more. I don't understand why me, she admitted, the weight of the journal still heavy in her hand. Why did my grandmother hide this from me? What does it all mean? Adrian looked at her with a mix of sadness and understanding, as if he knew that the answers were as much a burden as they were a revelation. Your grandmother protected you, Mia, he said softly. She didn't want you to know the truth because she knew it would change everything. You were meant to live your life without this burden. But fate has a way of pulling us into its grasp, and now you must face it. Mia's mind raced. Fate. It was all about fate, wasn't it? The curse, the journal, the power she didn't even know she had. It was too much to process. But what choice did she have? So, what now? She asked, her voice breaking the silence that had settled between them. Adrian didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced toward the mansion, his expression unreadable. Now, we find a way to break the curse for good, he said, his voice low. But it's not going to be easy. We need to track down the witch who cast the curse in the first place, Seraphine. She's the key to undoing everything. But she won't make it easy for us. Mia's heart sank. A witch? She had no idea how she would face a witch, let alone one who was responsible for such a powerful curse. But if it was the only way to help Adrian's son, she had no choice but to try. Where do we find her? Mia asked, her voice steady despite the fear rising in her chest. Adrian turned toward her, his gaze firm. We don't know yet, he admitted. But we have a lead. Your grandmother's journal mentioned her. There's a location hidden in the pages. We just need to decipher it. Mia felt a chill run through her. There was so much she didn't understand, so much she was still learning. But one thing was certain, she couldn't back out now. What happens if we don't find her? She asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Adrian didn't hesitate. Then, the curse will never be broken, he said, his voice filled with determination. And my son will remain trapped in his slumber forever. Mia nodded, the weight of the words settling heavily in her chest. The stakes had never been higher. But she wasn't going to give up. For Adrian's son, for the chance to break the curse, she would find the witch. She had no other choice. I'm ready, Mia said, her voice stronger than she felt. Adrian gave her a small, approving nod. Then let's go? We don't have much time. Together, they turned toward the mansion, the path ahead unclear, but their resolve solid. Mia didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of hope. She was ready to face whatever came next. They were going to find Seraphine, and they were going to break the curse, no matter the cost. I never thought it would come to this, Mia whispered to herself as she and Adrian walked deeper into the forest. The mansion, with its towering spires and looming shadows, had already seemed like a dream. But now, walking through the dense, misty woods with Adrian at her side, Mia felt as though she had stepped into a completely different world. One that wasn't just foreign, but ancient. One where danger and magic seemed to hang in the air. The path ahead was unclear, just like everything else in her life now. She had once lived a simple life, focused on work and raising her son. But that life had been swept away the moment Adrian had revealed his true identity and thrust her into a world of vampires, curses, and secrets that were beyond her comprehension. Are you sure we're on the right path? Mia asked, her voice breaking the eerie silence around them. Adrian didn't respond immediately, his gaze scanning the dark trees that seemed to whisper with the wind. After a long moment, he finally answered, his voice low and steady. This is where the journal led us, Mia. The witch we're looking for, Seraphine, is close. She's always been hidden in the deep woods. No one has found her in decades. And she's the one who cast the curse? Mia asked, her heart racing at the thought. Adrian's expression darkened, his amber eyes flashing with a quiet fury. Yes, she's the one. And she's the only one who can undo it. We have no choice but to find her. Mia nodded, her mind racing with questions. What kind of person was Seraphine? What would she be like? Was she as dangerous as Adrian made her sound? They continued walking in silence, the only sound the crunching of leaves beneath their feet and the occasional call of a distant owl. The air grew colder as they ventured further into the woods, and Mia felt a shiver run down her spine. She had always heard stories about these woods, how they were enchanted, how they could change a person if they weren't careful. But she had never believed any of it. Now, in the heart of the forest, she wasn't so sure. As they reached a clearing, Adrian stopped suddenly, his body tense. Mia followed his gaze and saw it too, a faint glow in the distance. It was soft at first, just a flicker of light in the dark. But then it grew stronger, illuminating the clearing with an ethereal glow. That's it, Adrian said, his voice barely above a whisper. That's where she is. Mia's heart skipped a beat as she stepped forward, her breath coming in shallow bursts. The light seemed to pull her in, like a magnet, and she couldn't help but feel that whatever awaited them there would change everything. As they moved closer, the glow became brighter, and the air around them seemed to hum with power. The trees parted to reveal a small, ancient stone structure. The walls were covered in ivy, and the entrance was dark and foreboding. But what struck Mia the most was the overwhelming sense of age and power that seemed to radiate from it. This was no ordinary place. "Are you ready?" Adrian asked, his voice steady, but Mia could hear the underlying tension. She took a deep breath, nodding slowly. "I don't know what to expect, but I'm ready." Adrian stepped forward, his hand brushing the stone doorway. The moment he touched it, the air seemed to crackle, and the door creaked open, revealing a small chamber inside. The light from outside flickered as it cast shadows on the walls. The room was simple, but there was something ancient about it, something that made Mia feel as if she were standing in the presence of something far older than she could comprehend. And then, she saw her. Sitting in the center of the room, bathed in the soft glow, was Seraphine. She was beautiful, in an almost unsettling way. Her long, silver hair shimmered in the light, and her eyes were a piercing shade of violet. She looked up as they entered, a small smile playing at the corner of her lips. "I've been expecting you," she said, her voice smooth and melodic, but there was an edge to it. Adrian stepped forward, his face hardening. "You knew we were coming?" Seraphine's smile widened. "Of course. The curse has been in motion for too long. It was only a matter of time before you sought me out." Mia took a step back, unsure of what to say. Seraphine's gaze shifted to her, and for the first time, Mia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. The witch seemed to study her, as if she were examining her very soul. "You," Seraphine said, her tone softening. "You are the one who will end this. The one who will free him." Mia felt a knot tighten in her chest. "Free him?" she asked, her voice shaking. Seraphine nodded slowly. "Yes, you are the key to breaking the curse. But you must understand, there is a price. Nothing comes without a cost." Mia's heart raced. She had known there would be consequences, but hearing it from Seraphine made it all too real. "What's the price?" she asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Seraphine's smile never wavered, but there was something darker in her eyes. "You will have to sacrifice something precious," she said softly. "But if you are willing to pay the price, the curse will be broken. Your world, and his, will be free." Mia swallowed hard. She had already given so much, and now she was being asked to give even more. But there was no turning back now. "I'll do it," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "I'll do whatever it takes." Seraphine's smile deepened. "Good," she said. "Then let us begin. I am warning you now." Seraphine's voice was calm, but her words carried an undeniable weight. Mia stood before her, Adrian at her side, the tension thick in the air. The witch, with her violet eyes and ethereal beauty, was preparing to perform the ritual that could either save Adrian's son or doom him forever. The room had grown colder as the witch moved with purpose, arranging ancient symbols and relics on the stone floor. There was no turning back now. Mia could feel it in her bones. "You must be prepared for the consequences," Seraphine continued, her gaze unwavering. "This ritual will demand a sacrifice. Are you ready to pay that price?" Mia glanced at Adrian, who stood silently beside her, his expression unreadable. He had warned her about the dangers, but the urgency in his eyes told her everything. This was the only chance to save his son. She took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm ready," Mia said, her voice stronger than she felt. Seraphine's lips curled into a knowing smile, but there was no warmth behind it. "Very well," she whispered, turning toward the altar she had prepared. "The ritual begins now." Adrian stepped back, his hands clenched into fists, his jaw tight, with both anticipation and fear. Mia watched as Seraphine began to chant, the ancient words filling the room with a strange energy. The air grew thick, as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Mia felt her heart race, her palms growing clammy. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew one thing for certain. She had no idea what this sacrifice would entail. "Close your eyes," Seraphine instructed, her voice a soft, melodic hum that seemed to penetrate Mia's mind. "Focus on the power within you, the power you didn't know you had." Mia did as she was told, her eyes fluttering shut. She tried to steady her breath, to calm her racing heart, but it was impossible. She could feel the energy in the room, swirling around her, a powerful force that tugged at her very soul. "Think of the one you love most," Seraphine's voice echoed through her mind. Think of the one you would sacrifice everything for. Mia's thoughts instantly went to her son, the only family she had left. Her heart tightened in her chest. She would do anything to protect him, to give him the life he deserved. But could she sacrifice herself, her very soul, for the greater good? She didn't know. But she couldn't stop now. The energy around her intensified, and she felt a sharp pull in her chest. It was as if something deep inside her was awakening, something that had been dormant for far too long. The symbols on the floor began to glow, their light pulsing in rhythm with the chant. Mia gasped as the power surged through her, her whole body humming with energy. She felt alive in a way she had never experienced before. But with that power came a price. She could feel it. The price of her sacrifice. Now, Seraphine's voice commanded. Place your hand on the vial. Mia's breath caught in her throat. The vial, glowing softly with the essence of the curse, sat on the pedestal before her. She hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers made contact, a surge of energy shot through her, more intense than anything she had ever felt. The power of the curse flowed through her, filling her veins, overwhelming her senses. She could feel the darkness trying to take hold of her, trying to pull her under. But Mia fought against it, focusing on the love she had for her son, the promise she had made to Adrian. She wouldn't let go. She couldn't. Focus, Mia, Seraphine urged, her voice cutting through the chaos in Mia's mind. This is the final step. You must release the power within you to break the curse. Mia closed her eyes, summoning every ounce of strength she had left. She could feel the curse's grip loosening, the dark power slowly starting to unravel. It was working. She was breaking the curse. But at what cost? The pain in her chest grew sharper, the sacrifice weighing heavily on her heart. She knew, deep down, that the price would be more than just physical. This ritual would cost her more than she could ever have imagined. But she wasn't going to back down now. For Adrian's son, for her own future, she would finish this. With one final push, Mia released the energy she had been holding, letting it pour into the vial. The moment the energy was fully released, the room seemed to tremble, the symbols on the floor glowing brightly before they slowly began to fade. Mia's hand fell from the vial, her body trembling with exhaustion. The world around her seemed to spin, the light from the vial flickering and then dimming as the curse was broken. She collapsed to her knees, her breathing shallow as the weight of the ritual took its toll. It's done, Seraphine said quietly, her voice almost gentle for the first time. The curse is broken. Mia's heart pounded in her chest, her vision blurry. She had done it. She had broken the curse. But at what cost? As Adrian knelt beside her, his hand gently lifting her chin, she saw the relief in his eyes. You did it, he whispered, his voice filled with gratitude. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing, that the sacrifice she had made was only the beginning of a much larger journey. The curse was broken, but the consequences were just beginning. As Mia opened her eyes, the world around her felt strange, as though everything had shifted into a new reality. The ritual was complete, but her body felt heavy, the aftermath of the magic coursing through her like a storm that had passed, but left a lingering, unpredictable energy. Her mind was clouded, and for a moment, she couldn't even tell if she was still in the stone chamber or if she had somehow drifted into another place altogether. Adrian was kneeling beside her, his hand gently cupping her face, his eyes filled with something Mia could barely comprehend. Relief, gratitude, a deep, unspoken emotion that she wasn't sure she was ready to face. You did it, Adrian whispered, his voice low, almost reverent. But there was something in the way he said it that made Mia feel as though he wasn't just talking about breaking the curse. She tried to sit up, her body protesting, but Adrian steadied her. Easy, he said, his tone soft but commanding. You've just done something extraordinary. Rest for a moment. Mia nodded, but the weight of the moment pressed heavily on her chest. The room felt colder now, the magical energy that had filled it slowly fading as the curse lifted. She could almost hear the echoes of the ritual, the whispers of the power she had unleashed. But there was something else, something Mia couldn't quite place. A sense of emptiness, of loss. She had broken the curse, yes. But what had she sacrificed in the process? She couldn't shake the feeling that the cost was greater than she realized. Adrian, what now? Mia asked, her voice quiet but filled with uncertainty. Adrian's gaze shifted, a flicker of something darker passing through his eyes. Now, we wait, he said, his voice steady. But you've done more than just break a curse, Mia. You've changed everything. Mia looked at him, confusion crossing her features. Changed everything? She echoed, the weight of his words settling in her mind. How? Adrian's expression softened, but there was still a distant sadness in his eyes. You have freed my son from a curse that has haunted him for 50 years. But what you don't understand is that the power you unleashed, it hasn't gone away. The magic, Mia, it's still in you. And it will always be in you. Mia's heart skipped a beat. In me? She whispered, not sure if she had heard him right. What do you mean? Adrian took a deep breath, as though gathering the words to explain something far deeper than Mia could comprehend. The curse was tied to my son's bloodline, but the magic that kept him trapped was linked to yours as well. Your grandmother knew it. She kept it from you. But now that you've broken the curse, the magic has bonded with you. It's a part of you now, Mia. The realization hit Mia like a physical blow. She could feel it now, a faint pulse within her, a power that had been awakened when she touched the vial. It wasn't just a fragment of the curse. It was something more, something that connected her to the very magic that had held Adrian's son captive for so long. She had broken the curse, but in doing so, she had become a part of it. So what happens now? Mia asked, her voice shaky with the weight of her new reality. Adrian looked at her, his gaze serious but not unkind. Now, Mia, you must learn to control it. The magic inside you won't go away. You will have to live with it. And if you don't control it, it will control you. The gravity of his words settled over her like a heavy cloak. Mia had always felt out of control in her life. But this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. How could she control something like this? How could she control magic? Adrian reached for her hand, his grip strong and steady. I will help you, he said, his voice soft but firm. But you must be prepared, Mia. The magic will test you. It will call to you. Try to take over, but you can resist it. Together, we can find a way to make sure it doesn't destroy you. Mia swallowed hard, nodding slowly. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't walk away now. Not after everything she had been through. Not after what she had done. I'll do it, Mia said, her voice steadier now. I'll learn to control it. Adrian gave her a small, encouraging smile. You're stronger than you know, he said. But there's something else you need to understand, Mia. The curse may be broken, but its effects are far from over. There are others out there who will try to take the power you now hold. Mia felt a chill at his words. Others? Who? Adrian's expression darkened. Others who want the power you now possess, Mia. There are those who would stop at nothing to take it from you. You're not safe. Not yet. Mia's mind raced. She had thought that once the curse was broken, everything would be over. But now, it seemed like the danger was just beginning. What do we do? Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Adrian's gaze hardened. We fight, Mia. We protect what's ours. I can feel them, Mia whispered, her voice trembling as she sat on the edge of the stone bench, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Adrian was standing across from her, his eyes scanning the horizon as he sensed it too, the growing presence of danger. Since the ritual, since the curse had been broken, Mia had felt different. The magic that now flowed within her was undeniable, a constant pulse beneath her skin, but so was the threat that it attracted. They're coming for me, she said softly, her voice barely audible over the rustling wind. Adrian nodded slowly, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. They will, Mia. It's only a matter of time before those who seek the power you now hold come after you. We need to prepare. Mia's heart raced. She had thought that once the curse was lifted, things would return to normal. But normal had never been a word she associated with Adrian or his world. The reality she had stepped into was one where danger lurked around every corner, and she was a target. How do we prepare? She asked, her voice a mix of fear and determination. Adrian looked at her, his amber eyes hardening. We train. You need to learn to control the magic inside you before it controls you. Mia felt a shiver run down her spine. It had been difficult enough to come to terms with the fact that she now held the power to break curses, but learning to control it was something she wasn't sure she was capable of. I don't know how, she admitted, her voice wavering. I've never done anything like this before. I don't even know where to begin. Adrian stepped closer, his presence calming yet imposing. I will teach you, he said, his tone firm. But you need to understand that this won't be easy. The magic inside you is ancient and powerful. If you don't control it, it will consume you. Mia nodded slowly, trying to steady her breathing. The reality of what she was facing hit her harder than ever. Adrian wasn't just talking about learning spells or incantations. This was about learning to control a force of nature, a force that had shaped her fate without her even realizing it. She was caught in something far bigger than herself, and she couldn't escape it. Adrian continued, we start with the basics. How to harness the energy that is now part of you. You'll need to focus, find the center of your power, and learn to control it before it overwhelms you. Mia's mind swirled. Focus? Control? She didn't even know where to begin. But she trusted Adrian. She had no choice but to. As they moved deeper into the forest, Adrian guided her to a small clearing surrounded by ancient trees. This is where we'll begin, he said, his voice steady. Close your eyes, Mia. Clear your mind. Focus on your breath. Mia did as he instructed, taking a slow, steady breath in and then out. She felt the cool air fill her lungs, but it wasn't enough to calm the storm inside her. Her thoughts were racing, and every time she tried to quiet her mind, the magic within her seemed to pulse, demanding attention. Focus on the energy inside you, Adrian's voice echoed in her mind. Don't fight it. Let it flow. Mia frowned, unsure of what he meant. How could she just let the magic flow when she felt it thrumming with such intensity? But Adrian's calm, guiding presence encouraged her to try. She took another deep breath, this time trying to let go of the fear that had been building inside her. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, she felt it. A wave of power, warm and alive, surged through her. Her eyes snapped open, and she gasped as the ground beneath her feet seemed to tremble. Adrian's eyes widened in surprise, but he didn't back away. Good, he said, his voice filled with approval. You're starting to understand. Now, focus on controlling it. Mia felt the magic building inside her, her heart racing as she tried to push it back down, to rein it in. But the energy was relentless, and she could feel it pushing against her, as if it wanted to be free. It's too much, she gasped, the power inside her becoming overwhelming. Adrian stepped forward, his presence anchoring her. You're fighting it, Mia, he said gently. You can't fight the magic. You have to accept it, to make it part of you. Only then will you have control. Mia's breath hitched. How could she accept something that terrified her? The magic was powerful, dangerous, and she had no idea how to tame it. But as she looked into Adrian's eyes, something shifted inside her. She had broken the curse. She had saved Adrian's son. She had done the impossible. And now, she had to face the impossible again. This time, within herself. I can do this, she whispered, more to herself than to Adrian. I can control it. Adrian smiled, a small, approving smile that filled Mia with a sense of purpose. Yes, you can. And you will. The forest was eerily quiet as Mia continued her training. Adrian had led her to a secluded glade deep within the woods, where the trees stood tall and ancient, their gnarled branches forming a canopy overhead. The air was thick with magic, and Mia could feel the power pulsing through her veins, alive and restless, as if it had a will of its own. She had come so far since the ritual, but the true test had only just begun. Adrian stood a few feet away, watching her with his piercing amber eyes. His presence was steady, grounding, and despite the chaos swirling inside her, Mia found herself relying on him more and more. Focus, Adrian instructed, his voice cutting through her thoughts. You've already felt the magic. Now you need to control it. Think of it as an extension of yourself, not something separate. Mia closed her eyes, trying to center herself, to calm her racing heart. She had learned the basics, the breathing, the grounding, but it was never enough. The magic within her was too powerful, too intense. I can't, she whispered under her breath, frustration bubbling up. It's too much. Adrian's voice softened. You're not meant to fight it, Mia. Don't force it. Allow it to flow through you, like a current. Control doesn't come from resistance. It comes from understanding. Mia inhaled deeply, the weight of his words sinking in. She had been trying to control it through sheer willpower, but that wasn't the way. She had to let go, trust in the magic, and allow it to become part of her. Slowly, She exhaled, releasing the tension in her body. She opened her eyes and raised her hands, palms facing upward. She felt the surge of energy within her, a crackling current, waiting to be shaped. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, faintly at first, she felt the power begin to move, swirling around her fingertips like a tangible force. It was like the magic had responded to her intent, to her willingness to let it flow. Mia's breath quickened as the power intensified, the energy spiraling from her hands. The air around her shimmered, and for a moment, she thought she could hear whispers, faint and elusive, like voices from another world. Adrian stepped closer, his gaze never leaving her. "Good," he said softly. "You're getting it. Now, bring it into focus. Shape it." Mia closed her eyes again, this time allowing herself to feel the magic more deeply. It was a part of her now, like an extension of her own body, and she could feel it responding to her thoughts, her intentions. She imagined the energy as a ball, a sphere of light and power. Slowly, she focused on drawing the energy inward, compacting it into the shape she had envisioned. The world around her seemed to blur, the only thing she could focus on being the energy between her palms. Her body trembled with the effort, but she pushed through, refusing to let the power overwhelm her. The sphere of energy in her hands began to grow, glowing brightly, pulsating with the power she had tapped into. It was warm, comforting, and yet dangerous all at once. Mia opened her eyes, staring at the ball of light she had created. Her heart raced in awe, but there was a flicker of doubt. Could she control it? Could she hold it together without it slipping from her grasp? Adrian's voice broke her concentration. "You've done well, Mia," he said, his voice low, filled with pride. "But you're not done yet." Mia turned to face him, her chest heaving with the effort. "What do you mean? It's working, isn't it?" Adrian nodded, but his expression was serious. "Yes, it's working. But the true test is maintaining control, not just creating something. The magic can be unpredictable. It will test you, challenge you. You cannot let it take over." Mia's hands trembled as she held the sphere of energy. She could feel the power trying to slip through her fingers, as though it were alive, eager to break free. "How do I keep it from getting out of control?" she asked, her voice shaky. Adrian took a step closer, his voice calm but firm. "You have to focus, Mia. Control doesn't come from the power itself. It comes from your ability to remain calm, to stay centered. The magic will always be there, but you must be stronger." Mia nodded, trying to steady her breath. She could feel the truth of his words deep inside her. The magic wasn't just a tool. It was a force, and it required respect. She had to learn to coexist with it, not try to dominate it. Slowly, she closed her hands around the ball of energy, feeling it pulse against her skin. She could feel the magic trying to push against her, but she focused, bringing it back under control. The light dimmed slightly as she pulled the energy back in, maintaining its shape. Adrian's smile was small but genuine. "You've done it," he said quietly. "You're learning to control it. But remember, Mia, this is just the beginning. You are now the guardian of this power. And with that comes a responsibility. There are others who will come for it. We can't let them take it." Mia felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. This wasn't just about breaking a curse. It wasn't just about saving Adrian's son. The magic inside her was something that others would seek, and she was the one who had to protect it. She had no choice now but to embrace it, to become the guardian of the magic that had changed her life forever. The days that followed felt like a blur to Mia. The magic, now a permanent part of her, pulsed beneath her skin, a constant reminder of everything she had become and everything she still had to face. Adrian was by her side, guiding her through every step, teaching her how to harness the power, how to control it. But there was still a sense of looming danger that she couldn't shake off. The world was changing, and so was she. They had tracked down the last remaining fragments of Seraphine's magic, the witch responsible for the curse that had bound Adrian's son for so long. They were close, so close to finishing what they had started, but Mia could feel the tension growing stronger every day. The closer they got to the end, the more the darkness seemed to draw near. "It's time." Adrian's voice broke through her thoughts one evening as they stood at the edge of the forest, the final piece of the puzzle in their hands. The air felt heavy, charged with the energy they had been chasing for so long. Mia turned to him, her heart pounding. "Are you sure?" she asked, the doubt in her voice clear despite her resolve. Adrian nodded, his expression unreadable but firm. It's the only way to end this, Mia. Seraphine's power must be destroyed for good, or it will continue to haunt us. Mia glanced down at the relic in her hands, the artifact that contained the last trace of Seraphine's magic. It was a dark, twisted object, its surface constantly shifting, as if it were alive, fighting to stay intact. She could feel its malevolent presence, and a shiver ran down her spine. Then let's do it, Mia said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. Adrian's lips curled into a small, approving smile, and together, they made their way into the heart of the forest. They had learned enough over the past few weeks, enough to know that they couldn't just destroy the magic. They had to neutralize it, sever the connection between Seraphine's dark power and the world. It wouldn't be easy. It would require all of Mia's strength, all of the magic she had learned to control. The forest seemed to grow darker as they walked deeper, the trees closing in around them. The whispers of the ancient woods seemed to follow them, warning them of the danger that lay ahead. But Mia didn't hesitate. She couldn't afford to. She had already sacrificed too much to turn back now. They reached the clearing, the place where the magic would be undone, where the curse would finally be broken for good. Adrian stood beside her, his hand gently resting on her shoulder, grounding her. You can do this, Mia, he said softly. You've already proven that you're stronger than you know. Mia took a deep breath, focusing on the relic in her hands. She could feel the power within it, swirling and pulsing with dark energy. This was the moment she had been training for, the moment that would either free them or destroy them. I'm ready, Mia whispered, her voice steady. Adrian nodded. Then let's end this. With that, Mia raised the relic high, calling upon the magic within her, the power that had become part of her very being. The air around her thickened, charged with the energy she was about to unleash. Her hands trembled, but she focused, pulling the power deep from within herself, drawing it into the relic, into the heart of Seraphine's magic. The relic began to glow, a bright, blinding light filling the clearing. Mia could feel the power fighting back, struggling to remain intact, but she didn't waver. She pushed harder, calling upon every ounce of strength, every piece of magic she had learned to control. The light grew brighter, and Mia felt her body tremble with the force of it. It was overwhelming, but she held on, pushing the magic through the relic, through the curse, until finally, with a sharp crack, the power broke. The ground beneath them shook, and for a moment, Mia thought the earth itself might split apart. But then, just as quickly as it had come, the magic was gone. The relic fell silent in her hands, no longer pulsing with energy. The clearing was still. The curse was broken. Adrian stepped forward, his face filled with relief. It's over, he said, his voice low. Mia collapsed to her knees, exhaustion flooding her body. The weight of everything she had just done hit her all at once. But despite the weariness, despite the fear and doubt that had plagued her, there was a sense of peace. They had done it. They had won. Adrian knelt beside her, his hand gently brushing against her cheek. You did it, Mia, he said softly. You saved him. You saved us all. Mia looked up at him, her eyes filled with emotion. She had never imagined that she would be the one to break the curse, to change the fate of so many. But she had. She had faced the darkness, embraced the magic, and come out the other side. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had found her place in this world. She wasn't just a janitor, a single mother struggling to survive. She was someone who had the power to change everything. And that made all the difference. Vampire stories often explore themes of dark magic, ancient curses, and the battle between good and evil, and this tale is no exception. When a seemingly ordinary woman discovers that she is the key to breaking a curse that has haunted a vampire prince for centuries, she is thrust into a world of power and danger. With the help of a powerful vampire king, she must learn to control the magic that has awakened within her, facing enemies who seek to claim it for themselves. The journey is filled with challenges, but as the woman embraces her newfound powers, she learns that she is more than just a bystander in these vampire stories. She is a force to be reckoned with. Through twists and sacrifices, she uncovers hidden truths about her bloodline and the price she must pay to protect those she loves. This story, like many vampire stories, is a roller coaster of emotion, mystery, and danger, with an unexpected and thrilling conclusion. As she battles the darkness within herself and the threats from those around her, she finds that in the world of vampires, nothing is as simple as it seems. Vampire stories, in their many forms, often show the complexities of love, sacrifice, and power, and this tale is no different, blending these elements into a gripping narrative. The woman's strength is tested, her heart torn between love and duty, and she must decide whether she can survive the consequences of the magic inside her. If you love vampire stories filled with powerful characters, curses, and the constant battle between light and dark, this one is sure to keep you captivated from start to finish.